Hi everyone, welcome to Karen McMillan, the author of this gorgeous new book, Turbulent Threads. Welcome, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks, Gabby. It's lovely to be chatting with you.
Wonderful. So I just wanted to have a wee chat with you about the book. I mean, I don't want to give too much away, but I know that it's set in the late 1800s in Dunedin. What about this time and location was so captivating to you?
I've always been fascinated by 1890s. It's such a progressive time in our history, and in Dunedin it was a very prosperous time as well. So if you go back to the 1880s, that was all doom and gloom, but the 1890s, it would have been a really exciting time to be alive, I reckon. So I was drawn to that, and I love Dunedin anyway. My husband's from there. I've been there many times. My father used to be a manager for Hallenstein, so we used to visit there as a child, and I was like really captivated by the place. So that kind of journey to maybe doing something, setting a book in this city, in this era. And I was also really excited when I was doing research and I discovered about the Devil's Half Acre. So this was a place in the gold rush that was infamous. But in the 1890s, it was a very poor community, but it was a thriving community with the Scots and the Irish and the Chinese and the Lebanese all living side by side. So I really wanted to put that multicultural element into my novel. And then, of course, there's the beautiful Larnett's Castle. So and probably many people have visited and it's been beautifully restored. And, you know, I've counterpointed my central character Greer with William Larnach and his tragedy later in life. So all of that came together and it was the inspiration for the book.
Oh yeah, I think it shows like when you're captivated by a specific area and you know how to write about it, the passion really shines through. So I think it was a great choice to set it here, to set it in Dunedin. A lot of authors say that characters they write are pieces of themselves. So in that, who would Greer be to you? What pieces of yourself have you put into her?
That is such an interesting question because my initial reaction would be she's completely fictional. She's absolutely nothing like me. But then I was thinking a little bit more on it, and I lost my dad at around the same age that Greer does in the book. So, I mean, obviously we had that in common, and I suppose I could channel that grief that I felt at the time. But also, like, she's a violinist, a musician. I have a love of music. I can't play the violin, but I used to sing in a band. So again, we've got music in common. And I used to actually work in the fashion industry. And as you read this book, you discover Greer's a very talented seamstress. And, you know, this is the day before mass-produced clothes. So she can make a career out of this, you know, not getting too much away, but she might do. So again, we've got that in common. And of course, then we've got this love of literature. So Greer has that as well. So initially I was going, oh, no, she's completely fictional. And I was like, actually, there is little pieces of me there. So thank you. It's a great question. And no one's ever asked me that before.
Oh, well, I mean, I think that I'm always curious to see, you know, like we read all about this character and they're written so well, you wonder, where is this inspiration coming from? So it's really, really good to hear that you have found those little bits that connect you. And it's really important when you have those big emotions, those big feelings, those big things that happen in life, you actually have some experience with that. So you can put that into Greer and her story too. So very nice to hear. Tell me a little bit about the journey of this book from conception to the finished product. What are some of the lessons you've learned along the way?
Yeah, so I mean, this book has been percolating in my mind for over 10 years. And I think it was very much inspired by another visit to Larnett's Castle, looking around going, gee, it would be great to write something here. And this book is very much a love letter to my husband. So my husband lived in Dunedin for a long time, and for a period when he was younger, he lived like a Victorian. He just really embraced that era, and he lived in a Victorian villa. So I thought, wouldn't it be great to like write a book that I can just like use all that information that's in his head and bring it into mine. So I really loved that process. So I got a Robert Lord Writers Cottage residency, and thanks to that, I was able to like really get into this project, be on the ground, go and look at everything. You know, I've visited many times, as I've just mentioned, but to actually be there writing a book is completely different. So you're really looking at, I was walking back in time into the 1890s and just trying to put myself in that space of what it would have been like at that era. So that was great. So that's one part of it. Then the lovely Quintin Wilson came on board as my publisher. So Quintin Wilson Publishing, brilliant publisher. So then I went through like this really robust editing process, because there's lots of things that might have slipped in, being a different era, things like language, or like one little thing that I didn't realize is that men in the 1890s didn't have wedding rings. Never even thought of it. So, it's only changing one line in my book, but thank you, my editor, for picking that up. Yeah, so robust editing, and then of course printed by your books. So, great job doing this beautiful book. Don't you love it?
Yes, we do.
Yeah. And then I've just been doing the publicity rounds, so talking to lots of lovely people like you.
Lovely. I feel like you've made the book like publishing process just sound so like easy breezy, and like it's like when you have the right help around you, I think it can be a bit easier. But I think because you'd written something so good to begin with, and the ideas that were in there were just so good that it doesn't really matter too much. The struggles along the way kind of get ironed out pretty quickly because you have a good starting point. So
oh, thanks, Abby. And I think for every writer, that's part of it, is you're going to work with an editor to make it better. So I love that process, because they've got a fresh eye and they'll see things you haven't seen or little things you might have missed. So I just think your editor is your best friend in this process.
They have to be. They really do. What advice can you give to writers just beginning their book journey? Someone who hasn't written anything yet, or maybe they have an idea, but they don't really know how to progress with it.
So I guess it depends on what they're writing. So like if you're writing a family history, just get in and do it, just get the material you need and do it. If you're thinking of being a fiction writer, then there's various things you should be doing. You should be reading a lot. So I don't know any published author who doesn't read a lot. I'm not talking about reading 1 or 2 books a year. I'm talking about reading at least 50 books a year. And write, just they say you got to spend 10,000 hours to be good at something. So get in there and just start writing when you can. Not everyone can do it every day, but write when you can.
I do feel like that is a good piece of advice that people always give, is just start it, just begin. Like that's always the hardest thing, I think, overthinking the process and, thinking too far ahead of what's to come. Just begin with the easy parts, get the information down and just begin. So yeah.
Begin, absolutely. And just accept that your first go is not going to be perfect. I mean, even the best writers in the world, their first draft won't be the one that's published. So having that knowledge goes, it doesn't have to be perfect, but get it down, and that's the starting point. Even if you spend 15 minutes trying to write something, don't spend like hours or half a day trying to do it. Just go 15 minutes. I'm going to write down what I can. So just make a start.
Oh, good. Do you have any plans for Greer in the future? Any other books in the work? Do we get to hear anything more about her?
Yeah, great question. A lot of people have been asking me that about Greer. I thought this would be just a standalone novel with her, but I don't know. I might revisit her. We'll see. But it's lovely to get the feedback that readers are really enjoying her, because I love her too. She's such a plucky, talented character. She's got lots of obstacles thrown at her, but she perseveres, she carries on, which I think we all admire. And as for other projects, I'm going to be going to Fiji in a couple of weeks to research the next Elastic Island Adventure book, which is my series for children. And I've also got another book coming out that I've co-written with my children's book publisher, Chrissy Meach, and that's going to be a series called Elemental Heroes. So that'll be out later in the year. So yeah, I've got stuff happening. It's very exciting.
It's very exciting and a totally different genre, but I'm really keen to hear that too. I love a good children's book, and I love that you get to research that overseas. So that's really nice. I hope you enjoy that, and I can't wait to see what comes of it.
I'm very excited about that. I'm very fortunate to have this opportunity.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Karen. It's been absolutely lovely talking to you. I hope that people really do feel inspired to pick up this book and read it, because I just think that we don't have enough of this style of book written about New Zealand. And I think that we do need to kind of embrace it a little bit more. I love seeing this kind of content put out. So thank you so much for your work, and thank you so much for joining me. Yeah.
Thank you, Gabby.